and welcome to the Artist's Diary. Join me this week as I travel to Italy, learn to breathe through my feet, get quite sick, rediscover the power of limitations, and finally have the breakthrough that I've been looking for in my art. I'm excited to share this with you, so let's not waste any time. Now, I booked my trip to Italy months before I broke my toe, but luck was with me and I recovered enough to be able to put soft training shoes on and be able to make it through airports, albeit slowly. And luckily, my friend Tracy agreed to look after Riley, who you know is my most precious possession. I felt he was in good hands, and that turned out to be true, as you can see.
Early morning massage routine. Is that beautiful? Is that the best thing? Special man. The ear bits, the end of the ear bits. Now you can go to sleep. More. Too funny.
You probably didn't want me to come back. Now, I used to be afraid of flying, like terrified, like holding on to the hands of strangers terrified. And I'm just not anymore, and it always surprises me. So in my mind, I'm still frightened, but then I get on the plane, I feel fine. The plane starts to taxi, I feel fine. The plane takes off, I feel fine. And then I remember, oh yeah, I'm not scared of this anymore. It's always a surprise.
Ringraziamo per aver volato con Aeronomiti Lufthansa, vi auguriamo un piacevole soggiorno e una buona giornata. Grazie, arrivederci.
These quick shots from the taxi are pretty much all I saw of the Italian Riviera. We were on the Amalfi Coast. Because my toe completely restricted me from leaving the hotel for a walk. I barely made it to and from my room. And also my desire to paint as much as possible, because this was a painting retreat. I just gave myself over to the painting and really didn't see anything of Italy except my beautiful hotel, my lovely view from my balcony, and the lovely gardens and pool and all the amenities of this fantastic place, which is called the Grand Miramar in Santa Margherita. Now, the retreat was being led by Nick Wilton of Art to Life.
But ultimately, trusting and using our intuition, that deeper part of ourselves.
And on the face of it, it might not make much sense for me to go, because I studied with Nick years ago and I know what he teaches. But you know, I always follow my intuition. And the minute I saw that retreat being advertised, my intuition said to go. And so I did. I am so glad that I did. But this is basically what's behind me. Hang on, get out of your way. How can I do this? Yeah, so very nice, very idyllic. So it's the last full day of the retreat today. This has been such a great experience in ways I couldn't have imagined. We have had glorious weather, and this has been a transformative week for me. So I wasn't sure why I was coming on this retreat. I do things by instinct. I've learned that more and more as life goes on, that my intuition is better than my thinking mind. So I got the intuitive nudge, right, do that, as soon as I saw it advertised. As soon as we arrived, we had a welcome reception on the first night, and everybody sat around and had a drink, and Nick welcomed everyone to the retreat, and all of his coaches said hello, and it was all very nice. And then they introduced Scott Picard, who's a energy healer, and said he was going to be there as well, helping people with any blocks or anything you wanted to talk to him about. He was going to be there. So I went and booked myself an appointment, and he said, I think you're supposed to come first. So I went the very next morning at 7:30 before we did any painting, and oh, I am so glad that I did. It's very hard to describe what he does. The best I can say is he teaches you to breathe through your feet and get in touch with all the elements. It sounds nuts. It really worked. It was amazing. Because as soon as I started painting, I was just on a whole new level of authenticity and just all the things I've been looking for in my work came together. And during the session, what we were focusing on is what I've talked to you about, I think on my last YouTube video with the big blue painting I made, that I spend a lot of time on my paintings prettying them up, and it frustrates me because the art I love best is raw and contains ugliness, and yet I always find myself covering that up when it comes to my own work. And that was the focus of the questions I was answering from within my body. Why do I avoid ugly? Why am I covering it up? What am I afraid of? Why am I constantly making tidy instead of powerful? And that first day, I instantly was painting from a different place. I was able to access a freedom and a raw expression that I've not experienced before. And I was also able to stop to notice when something was working, even if it didn't fit the standards of my previous criteria for what's beautiful. Now, I was a bit worried about being able to create in the setting that we were in. Let me set the scene. There were about 70 students in a large, what I can only assume is like a pool house type setup normally. The big room that overlooked the pool. There were just people everywhere. We were given just a set of colours, so I didn't have my normal colours. I didn't have my normal tools. We were working on small panels instead of I'm normally working large. So everything about the setup was different. These limitations and pushing out of that comfort zone turned out to be just what I needed. I think this is so often the way limitations force us to be more creative. My small panels became really exciting to me really quickly, and I found myself engrossed in the process. It was such a luxury to have nothing to do but create. Food was provided, my room was cleaned and sorted out twice a day. There was no dog to walk or entertain. There was nobody to cook for. I could sleep in without worrying I was missing a meeting or falling behind on admin. The only challenge for me, and it was a challenge for me, is being with so many people from breakfast to evening. I quickly learned that I needed to keep taking myself off and recharge my batteries. As a pretty extreme introvert, people drain my energy. Even when it's a fun situation like the retreat, I am finding this so tiring, and I don't think I've spent this much time on painting ever. So to start in the morning at about 9 o'clock and to go till 6 o'clock, which is what I've been doing, just creating and putting so much into it. Like, I really am making a lot of headway in my work and doing things I'm really excited by. So that the amount of creative energy that takes, I can't believe how tired I am. Normally when I paint, it's in spurts around the dog, around other responsibilities. It's not this complete commitment to creating. And I'm not physically or mentally built for it. I definitely need the breaks. So I will take it much easier tomorrow. I think there might be an afternoon nap involved tomorrow. There are 2 more painting days, and I've already had the breakthroughs and made the things I wanted to make. So. Even after protecting my energy so carefully, I still found myself exhausted. And I managed to catch the bug that was flying around. People were dropping like flies with a cold and being confined to their room for a few days. And I was fine until the last day when it came time to come home. And then I began to feel ill. So I was all set to come back from Italy with loads of great ideas, plans, things I was going to do when I got back. And then everyone was getting ill while we were away. And I got the bug on the last day. You can probably see how terrible I feel by how I look and how my hair looks. And even my hair's ill. It's just a cold. When I got back to England, it's a very different climate, obviously, than Italy, where it was still warm during the days and slightly chilly in the evening. Here it's cold. Autumn is almost over. I did catch a little bit of the last colour on my drive up to Cumbria, but so many of the trees have already lost their leaves. And while the lovely weather in Italy was nice, it's so nice to see home and to see all this autumn beauty before it's gone for good. It is such a beautiful time of year here. Okay, so these are the paintings that came back with me. They were not all perfected. If I'd been in my normal surroundings, I would have kept working on some of them. But I've decided not to. I've decided to keep them all exactly as they were. They are raw and they are exciting to me. They have not been beautified, with the possible exception of this one and this one, which are a little bit more of my usual style. The others are really unbeautified, and my favourite is this one. It was also the one that Nick singled out. This one contains so much for me. I have inklings about what the paintings are about, and the word that keeps coming to my mind is traces. So you might be wanting me to give you like a packaged up, okay, this is why it's a breakthrough, this is what I learned, and I can't do that. This is a diary, not a course. I haven't crystallized any of it. All I can say is we know, don't we, as artists, when we've hit something different and exciting, even if we can't yet put into words exactly what it means. I mean, there are obvious differences. There's a lot of black and white. That's not what I've been doing lately. There's a lot more raw mark making. There's blind drawing. The word traces seems to contain something for me, and I've always loved history. I love old things. My house is full of old furniture. My studio is full of old furniture. I love old books. One of my favourite things to do is to trawl around antique shops looking for old treasures. And this shop that I'm showing you on the screen is called Amazing Finds, and it's in Bingley, West Yorkshire. It's just a brilliant shop. And in there, as you walk around and you're surrounded by all these antiques, you feel, or I feel, the past lives, and I feel the traces of other lives passing me, almost like little shadows passing over my life and intersecting for a second with my life. And I love that. I love going to old ruined castles and imagining the lives that were lived there. I like living in an old house and thinking about the people that lived in the house before me and how they might have lived. When I look at these paintings, I see traces of my own history. There are memories represented in things that are drawn here. There are words scratched in that are representative of things that happened. But I also see the painting's history, and that's often what gets covered up when I've beautified. But here I love seeing every single one of these carries visible traces of how it was made. Every mark I added, everything I crossed out or covered up, every decision I made and then rethought along the way. Nothing here is polished or perfected. It's all built through layering and undoing, adding and then erasing. So the surfaces hold the memories of everything that went before. And I think that's what moves me so much about them. They behave like memory does. Nothing is ever completely gone, but it might be changed, it might be hidden. It might be sitting just underneath, waiting to be rediscovered. Every painting becomes a kind of map of its own making, a record of time, of doubt, of persistence, and of small moments when something true finally surfaced. And in the past, I've built layers, but I've often covered over completely most of what was there. And in the best of these paintings, like this one, there's very little that's truly covered up. Everything, every mark that was made remains, even if some of it has been covered up or obscured or changed. And as I said, they're also expressions of my own life history, so words that have been spoken to me or by me are in these pieces. There are shapes and there are symbols that represent things that have happened. As I said, nothing about this is set in concrete, and I have a head full of ideas about what comes next, but very little energy to execute them until I get over this cold. Once I got back up here, I started rearranging my studio, because I've realised as I had these breakthroughs, as I realised what I want to do with my art going forward, or started to get inklings, I realised I'm not using the space here to its maximum potential by any means. I did spend a little bit of time setting up part of my studio to work in sketchbooks. I'm a bit croaky, I'm a bit ill, but I wanted to get started setting up the studio to work in a different way. So this table is getting set up as my sketchbook table, and I'm getting out a variety of sketchbooks, some that I've worked on before and some that are new. And because the problem with sketchbooks, of course, is you work on one thing and then you've got to leave it to dry. So this is a small concertina book that's new. Here's a concertina book that has some just marks in, so I can use that as a basis to start with. And then a couple of books where I've stuck things in, but I might use those. A newish book here, and I'm just laying them all out. I've got some paints, and I'm going to get water and brushes and leave that on here, and some drawing materials, and then that's my sketchbook table. Found it so helpful in Italy to be moving between things on a table. I did manage a few hours of working happily in a concertina sketchbook, and I filled up one book.
We're still in the moonlight, it's something sweet. Let it wash over all of me. With you I form my company, forever close to the unknown. There's no doubts and no regret. Happy before we get another day to do it all again. Oh, throwing open all the curtains.
how I dry these books. I just lay them out on the floor. That's a whole concertina book. And you can see that it's very raw, unrefined. I like unrefined as a word. And that there are different types of experiments here. Excuse me. And in some pages I'm trying lots of dark, and then in other pages I'm trying to be very sparing. Just experimenting with different things. This is a pill packet, an empty pill packet, pressed into paint and then printed. And that's the end of that book, and I'll show you what I like about these books. As well as I like that you can dry them easily, I like that you can get individual spreads. So even though, for example here, I carried on working across these pages, we get really cool edges on these because of the cutoff. So I like finding out what happens when I'm just looking at 2 pages, because I'm never working on it that way. And I also like that I can, depending on how I fold it, that's how it looks, but I can bring this page over and I might get some surprises. I can fold another, and then I fold that page down, and now I'm getting different surprises. So I like that I can make these unusual combinations and just possibly get ideas that way. But it's particularly the edges that I enjoy. Because one of the things I talked about with Nick on the retreat was that what's important for this kind of artwork is it must feel like it comes from a larger world that extends beyond the edge of the painting. So it's important that things come off the edges, and that this book makes it easy to work on those kind of ideas because of the nature of it. And some pages, some spreads I really don't like. I don't like this one. But like I said, coming in and polishing them up would be pointless. That's not what this is about. It's time to move on, do more, make lots and lots of stuff, and just see what happens. I plan to fill lots of these books and do it quickly, and I'll share more of that process with you next time. But these books are not for perfection. These books are for mark making, exploration, drawing, adventure, so that I can see where things might want to go. So I want to keep that same freedom that I was working with in Italy and bring that into sketchbooks. I've also worked in a small book that I had with me in Italy, and I'm continuing to add to that book. It's not a concertina book, and the limitation of that is I have to wait for the pages to dry. I like the concertina because I can spread it out and leave things to dry and keep working. And so that is the story of my trip to Italy, of breathing through my feet, of the power of limitations, and of the art that's emerging. I just spent a happy hour wandering my property, looking at the last of the autumn colours with Riley, and I'm going to leave you with footage of that. Let's enjoy the last gasps of autumn before winter truly sets in. Come on, Petal.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free.
a step back.